Alright, in this video we're still looking at adding an event. We have the event we've already set up in the details. We called it Nerd Camp. We went to the registration details. We set up a few auto fees, which again are not necessary, but they're going to make the process of adding campers a little more streamlined. It's going to help us out. It's going to make sure that we always do the same thing when we add them. We added a data prompt asking what size t-shirt they wear, and we added an upgrade option asking whether they would like to take a 1-hour ride on a horse. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some campers, and you do that in the Attender Groups tab. This is the only place that you can add campers. You can't do it anywhere else. There's no way to drag and drop campers in. You have to use this Attender Groups tab, and you have to use the Add New Group wizard. This is to make sure that you get prompt for every question that you should. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and expand this section right over here, and I'm going to right away just do a search for I gotta click people. I'm going to do a search for Dennis Smollett, and there we go. There's Dennis Smollett, and this is who I'm going to add into this camp. Now you have to understand, in this version of Scout, every person who comes to camp comes as a part of a group. If they're coming by themselves, then they're in a group of one. If they're coming with more than just themselves, maybe they're coming with a group of friends that are coming together, or they're coming with their church or their school or that, then they're going to be in that group that links them together. So right now we're going to add a group, and it's going to be just Dennis in that group for now, and you'll be able to see how the finances work and everything else. So right here we're in the Attender Groups tab of the Nerd Camp, and I'm just going to click Add New Group, and it pops up this wizard. It's going to ask who's going to be responsible for paying fees for this group. This is the person who's organizing the group. Again, in this case we're only going to have one person in the group, so the person who's in the group is also going to be the person who's responsible for paying the fees. It could also be that if this were a minor that was going to be in this group, that maybe the parent would be drugged right here. So maybe mom or dad would be drugged right here. They're going to be responsible for paying the fees, and then later we're going to drag in the son or the daughter who's coming to camp. So I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to drag me over. I'm going to be responsible for paying fees. What is the name of this group? In this case, I'm not coming as a part of an organization. I'm just coming by myself. So I'm just going to make it the Dennis Smollett group, right like that. And I'm going to click Next. So now all the fees that get added will be charged to Dennis Smollett. Who will be attending with this group? Well, that's also going to be Dennis Smollett. I could search for more people and drag them in as well if I wanted to, but in this case we're just going to put Dennis. And it tells you a little bit of information here about Dennis, so we know we have the right person. You can change this type from attender to either counselor or sponsor, but that can also be changed later. It doesn't have to be changed now. And if we added any lodging upgrades, you could click right here to choose the lodging upgrade. I didn't add any, so I'm just going to press escape to exit out of there, and then I'm going to click Next. I could add empty group right here, and then I wouldn't actually have Dennis in the group, but I want to add Dennis, so I'm going to click Next, and it's going to prompt me, what size t-shirt should we order for you? If there was more than one person in here, it would have all those people in the grid, and I could go through and choose the answer for each of them. And I'm going to say we should order an extra large t-shirt for Dennis. Next, would you like to take a 1-hour ride on a horse? And then they have the choice of yes or no. I'm going to say yes. And so Dennis, we've already chosen his shirt size. We've chosen whether he wants to take a ride on a horse. Click Next. And now it knows that what fees we need to put on Dennis. You see here there's a bit of an error. It's because I don't have the electronic payment processor set up in this version of Scout that I'm using. If you don't have it set up, you'll get a similar error, but if you do have it set up, then you'll be able to use electronic payments. Because it's not set up, I have to do a manual payment or an account payment, and for right now we'll just use manual. So you can see here's the auto fee for registration costs that was put in here of $50. Here is the camp cost remainder fee of $129 that was put in there. And here is the horse ride activity of $20 because we said yes, Dennis would be doing a horse ride activity. On the registration cost, we said that he needed to pay immediately, so that $50 shows up right away as saying he's going to be paying $50 right away. And these other two, he didn't have to pay immediately, so they're showing up as zeros. Now, we can adjust those. We can just click right in here and we can type. You know, maybe he's going to pay $25 toward that fee. That would make his total payment $75. Or you could click the up or down arrows to say he's going to pay the full amount or he's going to pay zero. Or because you're the person who's doing the registration, you can say, hey, this person doesn't need to pay this fee, and you can just X out and get rid of it. So all these fees are going to be put in. If there's another fee that needs to be added, that can be added at a later time. But if you've set up your registration details tab properly, all those fees should be pulled in right now, and you shouldn't have to do the work of doing an extra fee later in most cases. But right now I have a manual payment selected. Dennis is going to be paying. If somebody else was paying, we could drag another person in. But this came from the organizer, the person that we said was going to be paying payment, so it should be accurate. Payment type. This payment type drop down, you can enter all these types in your setup area. I'm going to choose payment cash. Again, these are all things that I've entered, so you may have one or two, or you may have even more than I have. But I just have payment cash, first name, last name. Number would be if this is a check or Visa or something that I'm running manually, not electronically through Scout. Then I would want to go ahead and enter number here so that I have a record of what check number it was, or what maybe the last 4 digits of the Visa, that sort of thing. And expiration would be the same. But because the payment type has the word cash in it, number is not required and expiration is not required. So I'm going to pay with cash. The payment is going to go toward all 3 of these fees, but ultimately only $50 gets applied here, 0 gets applied here, and 0 gets applied here. So when I click enter payment, it should create the camper that we drug in, which is Dennis Smollett. In the group that we're creating, which is the Dennis Smollett group, should have these fees against him and should have $50 paid manually because he paid cash. So I'm going to click enter payment. It should do all of that, and it should also pull up, this is going to go ahead and pull up a receipt. We'll talk about receipts later, so I'm just going to close out of that right now. You can see already here's the group, the Dennis Smollett group. If I click on the group, we'll be able to see him down here as an attender. We'll also be able to see him in the attenders tab when we refresh. And in the lodgings tab, when we look under unassigned attenders, we should see him right here as well. So he's been entered into the camp, and he is everywhere that we need him to be. And the group that he's in is entered right here. We'll talk about these details and check-in and create fee and all these buttons later in another video, and we'll also talk about what you can do from the attenders tab and from the lodgings tab in a later video as well. Thank you very much.